GM. Can you guys hear me? Awesome, awesome. GM, Xcode, my friend. How are you doing?
Good. Good. I'm
Been
ready.
a while since we last spoke, right?
Yes. Yes.
Man, I don't know what happened, but my throat is, I don't know, kind of an open wound right now. Whenever I try to breathe, it hurts.
Oh no.
Yeah. I guess age is finally getting its price from me. I'm getting old.
All those late nights with the baby.
Exactly.
Yep.
GM, my friends.
Have you got any gray hairs yet?
Oh man, let's not talk about that. It'll make me sad. This year, I turned 36, John.
Oh, okay. That's a respectable age.
Yes, exactly. I would be the village ancient in the medieval times, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I'd be the geriatric old man in the medieval times.
Oh,
You know what? Before Michael gets in here and I embarrass myself trying to screen share, I'm going to try and screen share.
yes, please.
We'll do a quick test. We all know how
Let's
this goes with my with my setup. So.
Oh, let's go, John.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
It works perfectly.
Beautiful.
First try, John.
First try. Got it figured out.
This is what I call progress.
Look at that food. Oh, I could go for some food right now. Some of that eggs and sushi or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Man.
Now that we know that works, I'm going to turn that off.
Yes.
Come back to that later.
Everyone, welcome to... No, he's just... Yes, exactly, Jindo. Jeez, John, people have such keen eyes, John.
How did he see that?
They saw the John.
How did he see that?
I don't know, man. Like they
Pseudo,
have
how did you see that?
Hawkeyes or something like this.
I didn't even
know,
click on the tab.
Exactly. Like how did he know? Like
I even distracted him with the food.
He knows his menu.
He does know his menu.
The guy's a legend. The guy's a legend.
Oh my word.
Through C4 PTR grinder. So yeah, guys, we have some cool stuff to talk about today. And I see here in the audience, no way. Ah, Jesus Christ. Even before I announced him, he is already posting this. We have our CEO, Michael Wagner, who was hyping people yesterday on our public chats about our team meetings. So, GM Michael, how are you doing?
Good morning. Doing great. How are you guys this morning?
Fantastic.
Good.
So,
wasn't trying to leak anything, but Suto leaked it.
Yes, Suto. I mean,
apparently he has the Starbase menu memorized.
Exactly. And I mean, we have some cool stuff to share today, right, Michael? Yesterday's team meeting was pretty exciting in all fronts, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, exceptionally. I think a number of the things we've already spoken about here, but it's just so impressive getting the updates from everybody yesterday on how many things are moving forward and how many new features we're adding in, and I think probably want to spend some time focusing on the crew integration proposal that you've really been working on with John. That was super exciting, and I don't want to steal the thunder here on any of the specific details, but some of the mechanics that you guys introduced on that presentation yesterday were very, very cool. So I don't want to jump the gun on it, but I can't overstate how impressive it is and excited I am to be able to produce at the velocity that we are, like given how much we've had to reduce on team size. It's kind of mind-boggling.
Exactly. It feels like exactly it's now 10 people, Jindo. That's the feeling. It almost feels as if Iris and the Star Atlas themselves are helping us code stuff right now here in Automata. It's super cool. We are super excited about everything that's going on. So yeah, maybe we should get started since everyone's on stage. And the way that I want to do this right now is doing like a quick recap on everything that we have been discussing the previous weeks. You guys have been following and helping us shape the C4 PTR. So let's do a quick recap here. We have released the C4 PTR something like, has it been like 3 weeks yet?
It'll be 3 weeks on Thursday. It's been like
Yep.
2.5 or so.
Okay. So 2.5 weeks, we have posted the C4 PTR for you guys. You guys have been relentlessly grinding, helping us fix the bugs, providing feedback on the features, the UI UX interface. Huge shout out to this community that loves the game, shows a lot of passion, help us build this. And while you guys were testing, while you guys are grinding, we were here developing some really cool stuff. And we have 2, let's say, waves of releases coming. Today's brew is going to be about those two different waves of releases, and they will be integrated with the C4 PTR. It will surely give you guys a lot of content to go through. Each one of those phases are massive things on its own. They pretty much reshape the PTR that you guys have in hand right now. So what we're going to do now is talk about phase 2, which is the next update. It should be be coming really soon, right, Michael? I think we are just wrapping up the last things that we need to release this one, and then we'll talk about what Michael just spoke about, phase 3, which deals with a lot of things that you guys have been, not only you guys, we all here in Automata have been dreaming about for a long while now. So phase 2, the first one that's coming now, the next release, it's coming I don't want to give dates here, but it should be pretty soon. It's going to introduce a few very cool new mechanics to the game. Michael, feel free to jump in at any moment here, and John as well, because John is working on the Nemesis Engine. We are going to, this next phase 2, is going to revolve around 3 main pillars. The first one is Combat V2. Combat V2, he works the atomic combat that you guys are used to while playing Holocene. It basically integrates hundreds of new stuff. Like, for example, we have different damage types that are influenced by RNG factors. You will no longer be only checking who has the biggest fleet, but who has the fleet with the best build to counter each other. you guys will be able to focus on creating optimal fleets to deal with different kinds of situations. What else in terms of combat here? We also have
Jose, I would
Hmm.
just, and I know we covered this a bit last week, but just to reset, V2 is really all about stat modifiers. I mean, that other than just pure attack power, damage output, again, pure attack power, damage output, where effectively deterministic, you already know who's going to win just based on combat V1. That's what we played in Hollow. Extensive layers of stat modifiers for things like crit chance, crit damage, dodge, evade, different damage types, different shield types, and to some of the stuff that we're kind of closely correlated to combat V2, and that's the cultivation claims outputs and the stems that you're going to be able to those, and then how the stems all apply to crew enhance your feed. So
Michael, you're
then there's
breaking up a
also
little bit.
this happens frequently. I am I have internet available to me where I live, but I live kind of up in the mountains, and the internet is still pretty bad. What I'm go do if I'm still breaking up is just go flush the Wi-Fi again and see if I get a better connection. So I might stay down for a moment here.
Yeah, no worries. We'll cover you while you do that. No worries. So
Be back.
yeah. So as Michael was saying, Combat V2 is a rework of the Atomic Combat that we had before. So now combat is no longer deterministic. We have variables that will influence the outcome of combat. Things that you guys can do to shape your fleet's combat capacities besides the fleet configs. There are different types of damage. There are different types of variables. The defensive rules of the ships. Everything gets more customizable. Everything gets more interesting. And now players can actually build stuff like creating different systems, different fleet compositions in order to actually engage with your enemies and with NPCs in-game. Which is a good segue, John, here to start talking about the Nemesis Engine, which is also coming in this phase 2 of the C4 PTR. Can you do a quick recap here, John, on what we can expect for phase 2 on the
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Nemesis?
Yeah. So those who played Holosim last or have been playing Holosim recently, the Nemesis engine is the AI piece, the NPC piece that opposes you while mining asteroids in Holosim. So that gave us a couple really interesting tools to work with. It gives us the ability to spawn fleets, build our cargo holds. It allows us to target specific players, defend star bases, defend certain regions. So the Nemesis engine itself is the piece that takes care of like wallet authority for faction-aligned NPCs currently. We're expanding it to work with unaligned factions and to break it up into multiple wallets. And each of those wallets would be sort of an entity in its own right. So maybe the Tufa faction will have a wallet, have an engine. I'm also working on some performance improvements so that the Nemesis engine doesn't run in a single loop. And that means that all fleets don't share the same execution loop anymore. They're broken off into individual tracts, and the individual fleet has its own process that runs. And that should improve the performance of the engine significantly. It should give individual fleets their own personality. If we were to hook in something like an agent there to actually make decisions for it. So currently all of the decisions that it can that it can make are already baked into it, sort of thing, and it's a predefined execution. But we have the option with some of the tools that that TT Donovan is building to substitute in a brain there, like an AI brain, and to run some kind of execution loop. So we're experimenting with that. But the big change is that the Nemesis engine will be repurposed for C4, and that the entities it spawns will have much shorter response times and quicker response times, shorter execution loops, and then it'll tie into some of the more creative uses for those types of systems. So, for example, Jose was showing me a sort of a wandering merchant that he had built, and essentially the Nemesis engine can spawn in a quest giver or a roaming marketplace that your user has access to. We can also spawn in things like derelict ships for specific missions, and we can spawn in enemies like we did with the Super Phoenix event. So definitely expanding on that toolkit, and Combat V2 will rely heavily on that from the NPC PvE perspective.
This is everyone pay attention to this, because this concept, this idea that John just shared with us is super important for the remaining of this brew, because John and Nemesis Engine gave us the tool to do a lot of cool stuff. Yes, Jindo, exactly what you are seeing over there. Right now, we actually have the tools necessary to build random quests, trigger conditions, and anything that we so desire, to spawn NPCs, to determine their responses, to determine their personalities, to determine what type of items they spawn with, how their behavior works, and things like that. Hold this thought, because this is going to be super important as we progress in this brew. John, I see Funkcracker asking a question about the mainnet translation here.
Yeah, I'm thinking about how to answer that. So at the moment, I don't have any thoughts on how it would translate to mainnet. All I know is that once the bridge exists for Zink and we're moving mainnet assets onto Zink and using them there, the Nemesis engine is dealing with NPC ships, like whether those ships are pulled from inventory or they're. So I'm not sure exactly what he's asking. If you're saying, like, how do we deal with the fact that there's a finite number of ships in the galaxy and that they're all player owned, how would the Nemesis engine spawn in assets from a pool of what Automata owns, or are you just getting at, like, how does this work on mainnet? Like, maybe you can tell me which direction your thoughts are going. Yeah.
The first.
Hey guys,
So, like,
I am back here. Hopefully,
Hey,
I'm coming
Michael.
through a little clearer.
Nice.
Oh yeah, your sounds great now.
Okay, this is once or twice daily routine for me at this point. I'm just kind of catching up. Is it Funcrackers? I heard you guys addressing Funcrackers' question about let's call it asset density, or utilizing the actual limitation of assets in the game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, as it relates to the Nemesis engine spawning NPCs for missions for whatever. Yeah, so I was in my head noodling how we would get a pool of real assets to the engine on mainnet, which is possible. We just set aside a pool of assets for it, but maybe you can comment further on that.
Yeah, it is possible. I mean, we've discussed this through the economic lens of, like, does this translate into inflation into the game if we're minting, or not even necessarily minting, but using like off-chain assets for the Nemesis engine. Right now, my current thinking on it is that it's not really a net negative to the game. It's not as though any of the NPCs would be ships that would ever be sold. We're not minting more into existence to increase the total supply of the assets in the game. And given that they would be dedicated specifically to these NPC functions to increase fleet density throughout the game, I think it would be a reasonable approach for us to essentially have that uncapped and unlimited, with the single caveat being that's specifically because it's coming from us, it's coming from the game engine to place these NPCs on the board. If and when we get into the discussion around like the democracy module and the certain optionality that players have to be able to make decisions about regional governments, which could include things I've talked about, like revenue sharing or revenue distribution through fee capture. But one of the decisions that players could make would potentially be, we would like to employ NPCs to protect this region on our behalf. I would make an exception there and say we're not going to enable unlimited fleets to be minted through that diplomatic function. What I would love to see in that specific case is probably an integration with the fleet rental system. And so what players are able to do is determine that a portion of the fees gets saved and goes into a regional vault, and then they can vote on hiring other fleets, but the other fleets that they hire would need to be other player-owned fleets. That's the one exception that I would make, because in the alternative there is that we do, in fact, introduce unwanted inflation fleet assets that are not owned by anyone, that are actually patrolling and protecting an area. But again, just to restate, for the purposes of NPCs, I think it's not unreasonable for us to use effectively some type of off-chain supply of that, or some dedicated supply that will never be sold into the market but is available to patrol the galaxy.
Yeah, this is quite interesting. Another alternative here, Michael, is that maybe the regional DAO could vote on acquiring ships on the market, right?
Yep.
To make its fleet directly.
Yeah, and I think that's a good proposal, and I think these are like interesting financial decisions that we do want to empower regional governance of in-game mechanics to be able to facilitate. Perhaps off topic, but what I do want to clarify is that we're not going to have like a PIP system like we do in the top level DAO. Within the game. You can't just introduce a proposal in the game to do anything you want. These are going to be specific mechanics that we provide. And of course, we'll take your feedback if you want to see a mechanic, like it's something that we can introduce. But there will be specific mechanics such as, do we want to increase fees or do we want to reduce fees? Do we want the fees to come out of the amount that goes to the top level DAO, or do we want to add it on top? Do we want to employ fleets to patrol on our behalf, or do we want to just distribute that revenue to anyone who has diplomats at that system? And then to your point, do we want to purchase these ships or do we want to rent these ships? And there will be guardrails on what you can do, and guardrails around how much you can increase the fee, and whether it comes out of the DAO share, or if it is an additional fee on top. But again, we're going to be providing the options, and then players with diplomats will be able to vote on those options. So it's not like a free for all, like it is kind of conceptually in the top level DAO.
Very interesting. Michael, since you are back now, do you want to add anything about Combat V2? Because I think this would be a good moment to talk about the democracy module, which is also coming for phase 2, but maybe you have some stuff to share about combat before we move on.
How much of my comment did you guys catch, or was it completely broken up?
You were doing a summary on how things worked on in Holocene.
Okay. Yeah. So what I was getting at is that we're Combat V2 really introduces stat modifiers throughout the game. I think that's the simplest way to to kind of visualize what we're adding with V2. So in HoloSim, it's essentially deterministic combat with very easy to determine outcomes, because whichever fleet is the more powerful fleet is intrinsically going to win, right? Higher attack power, better defense. You know who's going to win that engagement. Now, by and large, there's still obviously going to be balance between, say an extra small fleet and like a commander fleet. There shouldn't be an expectation that the extra small fleet is going to be able to take that much larger fleet out. However, what we do get to add are things like damage modifiers, like crit chance, crit damage, dodge, evade, the different damage types, the different shield types. And then this is where I had started to allude to some of the things that you can achieve or apply with the cultivation claim outputs, which are going to be stims that potentially apply directly to your crew members or apply to the fleet level. And that might be a 10% increase to shields for 1 hour, or a 10% increase to damage, or a 10% increase to mining power for 1 hour. So these are all the stims from cultivation claims are all going to be consumables that are temporary in nature. But generally, the Combat V2 introduction is this whole stat modification layer that now adds a bit more variability into the combat equation, right? And intrinsically some RNG. It's very possible that you get unlucky and your attacks miss 3 times and you get destroyed as a result of that. Or you get very lucky and you get you get 3 crits in a row and you actually take out a fleet that is maybe a tier higher than your fleet. All right, so I think it adds a lot more dynamism into the game, and pretty excited about it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we all are. And the addition of these teams is something quite interesting as well. Like, we all have been dreaming about herbology, chemistry in Star Atlas, and this is the foundations of this new gameplay loop. The ability to influence. Yes, exactly, Gino. Time to start clapping the noobs. Now players will be able to create builds, create different fleets or configurations to actually specialize in combat. Super exciting. And okay, so we have Combat V2 with the Nemesis Engine as one of the pillars. We have the Steam packs, which will influence fleet performance, as another one. And the third thing coming for the second phase of C4 PTR is the Demokrasi module, which we were already discussing now. Michael, I received some stuff from Jacob here. I think I'll drop it on the chat and you can start just explaining to us the details here again.
Yeah, and feel free to post it. But before we jump into that, just to kind of reframe our process here is the Combat V2 integration does require a program change. I know I talked about this last week as well, but it does require a program change. The consequence of that is it means we do need to reset the map. And so what we are currently coordinating is really the Combat V2 upgrade alongside the Nemesis engine that John's been working on. I think those two are quite complementary. The Nemesis engine itself is going to create enemy objectives that you can go out and attack even within your own faction. So given that's closely correlated with combat actions, now you won't need to go navigate and identify a real player to engage in PvP. There will be PvE within engage and then test out that Combat V2 system that we're introducing. So those are really the two core things. Closely coupled with that is the cultivation claim feature. But to be clear, it's all of these things that you're talking about, Jose. We don't necessarily need to release them all collectively. I'm kind of just waiting to see where we land on Nemesis Engine and Combat V2, and if that's ready in a week, then we'll let you guys know and get you prepared for a wipe and a reset with the addition of those features. Otherwise, in between, if cultivation claims becomes available, if the democracy module becomes available, we will probably just ship those straight to the client. But the Combat V2 is the big one because that requires the reset.
No, interesting. Thank you for the clarification, Michael. I mean, the sooner we get new content, I guess the community will be happier. So, yeah, let's
Yeah,
just ship as quickly as we can.
I think it's probably getting a little bit stale out there. I know some people feel like they've kind of topped out what they can do within the playtest right now. I'll mention one more thing, and that is just that John and I and the team, we talked about it yesterday. We have been a little bit slower on bug fixing, kind of deprioritizing those in the short term, just because we have like 5 or 6 very exciting features that we can plug in. And I'm kind of more motivated to get those features out and then do additional testing and then get back into bug fixing. Not to say that we're not doing it right now. We know there's some blockers and we will take those on. But the priority has shifted slightly into the new features just because they're all pretty compelling to add.
Absolutely.
So I'm not going to read through this whole thing that Jacob
Yeah, sure.
drafted up. I think maybe the easier thing to do, and I've explained a lot of these mechanics. Now this image that you shared probably helps visualize it, but why don't we just pause for a second and see if there are any specific questions? And if somebody wants an overview of how this democracy module is supposed to work again, I can get into it and do that, but I know we've explained it a handful of times, so I don't want to be repetitive here.
Absolutely. And I see Jindo already asking here, Michael, if we will be airdropped test police for this, or we are using our actual PvP that we have in our accounts.
That's a good question. I actually need to circle up with Jacob on. No plan to airdrop like a test polis because there is no DAO infrastructure on Zink right now. What I'm not entirely clear on is how we're going to map a player's PvP from Solana mainnet over to C4. And what we might do is just assign a blanket value. It might just be a placeholder value. Everybody gets, I don't know, 500,000 PvP to deploy across the galaxy. And I think that would be the simpler thing to do for now.
Interesting. I also posted a sneak peek that Jacob shared with us. It's still not the final UI UX version here, but this gives you an idea of how it's going to work overall. You have your voting power, which is based on the crew members that you have on the starbase. You have the option to assign them to a starbase. They will be staked there. So you have your PvP. You'll be able to use your PvP as long as they are staked in that starbase. And then we have the different things that we can use that PvP that you have on. So for example, the example here is the governance vote on crafting fees, local treasure share, reward distribution, and marketplace fees. I think those are the features we are going to launch from the get-go, right, Michael?
Yes, the priority for me is to create this revenue distribution mechanic, which I think is very powerful for Polis utility. Something that is more difficult for us to achieve from a regulatory standpoint from the Panaculum DAO. That's the DAO as we know it today. Distributing any assets from the DAO treasury puts us at risk of perception of being a security. The differentiator here is this is an in-game mechanic, so it's obfuscated from just pure revenue distribution, and then thinking through legal analysis and things like the Howey test. One of the prongs of the Howey test is the expectation of profits based on the efforts of others, right? And so the in-game mechanic actually requires your effort. You need to be directly engaged. You need to have assets in the game. You need to make a decision about where to place your diplomats. You need to vote on the governance system itself. And so you need to be directly engaged. And it's from our perspective, not too dissimilar to just the way that we distribute Atlas emissions for gameplay itself, right? You wouldn't say Atlas is a security because it's something that you can earn in the game. And in much the same way, If we're distributing Atlas to players based on Polish utility, we wouldn't say that that's a security either. So this is something that we're always considering. But again, I think it's obfuscated a bit by being in the game. And my priority was to identify a path to revenue distribution based on economic activity and GDP in the game. And that's what we can achieve with this. And then we get to drive that additional utility to crew members by coupling the crew requirement to deployment of your Polish voting power.
That's it, boys and girls. Super exciting. I mean, we all wanted Polish utility in game for so long. So seeing this come to life, especially pretty soon, is a huge, huge realization. At least for me. Does anyone have any other questions for Michael regarding the Demokrasi module?
And while we wait for that, I do see Funcracker just posted, but I just want to address there's a little discussion going on about rewards for play testers. It's very possible and likely that we do some type of cosmetic reward at the conclusion of this, like we've done through the HoloSim seasons. The primary financial benefit, if you will, though, is going to be the ability to earn Zink XP for playing. I have an open conversation with Chris right now about what mechanics we specifically want to track. One of the challenges that we face in products like HoloSim and currently C4 is that it is completely free to play, and there's no kind of capital requirement to participate, and you're not paying any real transaction fees for various actions. So some of the mechanics that we use in like Sage ZXP tracking that has a real economic cost in processing transactions that allows us to track the consumption of resources. Well, that's a real cost input that doesn't exist in C4, and so like we solved this with HoloSim quite elegantly, in my opinion, through the achievement system. So there was a very real time requirement to be able to complete those achievements and earn your Zink XP. So we're just trying to figure out exactly what we want to track in C4. But as soon as we determine what that is, then we'll introduce the ZXP mechanics for C4. And I think we'll have that in place when we do this next release with the Combat V2 and Wipe.
Interesting. Michael, do you want to take Funcracker's opinion here?
Yeah, let me just read through it. Interesting proposal, Funcracker. I mean, we're not fully locked in here. The main thing for me immediately was getting the crew utility. I don't know if I would suggest that we should do claim stakes. What might be cool is having a HAB requirement, and the HAB requirement also scales with the number of crew that you need to house there. That's a pretty interesting proposal. Let's see, get the rev distribution. Well, and on the second point, this is specifically why I did want to include asset ownership requirements, because there is a direct conflict of interest between somebody that just holds Polish voting power but no game assets, and somebody that holds Polish voting power and game assets. Naturally, if you exclusively hold Polis and therefore Polish voting power through through staking, you would always vote to increase to the maximum fee, because that's going to lead to the maximum revenue distribution to you. However, if you are a player in the game, and this is part of the call it the democratic strategy or political strategy of the game, if you're a player in the game and you're operating at, say, a Frontier Starbase where you're processing all of your crafting jobs and you're trading frequently on the marketplace, which are the mechanics that generate fees, it's very possible that you might actually vote to reduce those fees as low as possible, because that's a direct cost savings to you. So rather than focusing on the revenue distribution side and income side, you're focused on how much can I save by reducing fees in that region as far as possible. So in that sense, I think it's actually the opposite of self-serving. Now, you might also decide that you are going to employ your diplomats at a different system that you don't operate in, and you're going to increase the fees on that system, and you're less concerned about reducing fees in the system that you operate in. Like that's all very possible as well. But I think we are trying to address this conflict of interest concept through the asset ownership requirement. I don't know if that answers your question.
I think that's a very interesting mechanic. Yeah, I think Funcracker is alluding to the regional DAOs concept that we had in the white paper of Star Atlas. And I think it's a matter of development, right? So we can reach the point where we can partition the top DAO with a regional DAO, a faction DAO, etc. This is an interesting conversation.
Yeah, I'm reading through the chat right now, just getting caught up as well. Yeah, I mean, selfishly, Funcracker, and just to be transparent with you guys, I mean, I do kind of want to, strike a balance of like accessibility of these mechanics versus the investment into assets required to engage in them. But I mean, selfishly, if we were to include a CSS HAB requirement, which could be placed at any starbase and system, obviously that's good for us and for anyone out there that actually owns the CSS land plots. This is a direct benefit to you because now your land plot is what unlocks your ability to house a certain number of crew in addition to the crew unlocking the amount of PvP that you can apply. So it does start to create a stronger balance across diverse asset ownership throughout the entire ecosystem. So that's an interesting one. We'll discuss that a little bit more, but my immediate thought is that it's actually a pretty cool additional requirement to layer in.
It's interesting for sure. Any other questions about the democracy module? Or we can move forward because we still have a lot to talk about today.
Yes, Chet, there is a min-max on fees. I don't know if you were here when I was discussing the guardrails concept, but effectively we're going to say, and I'll just give you an example, but the crafting fees baseline are 7%. And there's a couple of different ways that we could implement it, but let's say what we would provide to you guys is an option to select to increase fees by up to 2.5% with 0.5 intervals. So you would vote on one of 5 different options. Do I want 0.5, 1, 1.5, 2, or 2.5? But you're not going to be able to say, I want a 99% fee on this starbase. We will define the parameters that you can vote on, and then those will be the boundaries.
Awesome.
You're late. Don't let it happen again.
Come on, chat Robert's priorities, man. Right. So I think this is a good moment for us to move forward with our agenda today because we have some exciting stuff to share. What Michael has been talking about here today is the near-term improvements to the C4 PTR that we already have lined up for the upcoming sequences of releases. But we have been building some other stuff that relate to mechanics and things that the community have been dreaming about for a long time to see implemented in the game, to be able to pick them up and be able to use their assets to the full extent of the Star Atlas vision, especially the crew member system. As you guys know, right now, crew members are pretty much a commodity in game. They are not unique. All of the crew members work the same way as one another. Even crew members of different rarities, all of them are basically inputs to have your crafting jobs done, to have your fleet's composition fulfilled. And it has been our internal desire to change this for a long time now. And I mean, you know what? I'm going to let John take the lead here on what we are building because I promised him that I wouldn't overhype this next part of the brew. So, John, if you can be so kind as to take the lead on the discussion here on what the two of us have been building for those last days, I feel it is good. The community will be happy to hear your thoughts and what we have been doing.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, crew stats utility. Yes. So just given where we're at with the PTR and with the desire to have crew fulfill their role, to have utility, to be these mutable NFTs that grow with you while you're using them, exploring, crafting, all those things. So Jose came to me and said, I really want crew to function in game as we had always hoped that they would. So we broke that process down, and because Zink is not going to support CNFTs, but we have control over the network completely, we're able to just take the CNFT and bring it into our bridge and mint a corresponding NFT on the other side using the token 2022 standard. And so we're in the process of doing the research right now to make sure the token can hold all the data that it needs to. And our preliminary says yes, like everything we want to do with crew. So the things that you see now with their aptitudes and their age and where they were educated and all that is like a good example of the data that we want to have access to. On top of that, we want to give them skills and aptitudes, and we want those skills to be affected by training. So if you train in a particular area, the skill gets higher. If you lose a mission a number of times over and over again, your skill in another area may go down. We want to be able to gain XP and apply that through the council rank system. So the NFT standard allows us to do all of those things, and we're happy with that. We're going to bring your CNFT crew into the bridge, and we're going to mint one unique NFT for each crew member that you bring into Zink. And once they're there, we're going to start reworking the crew systems, like the way that they craft things and the way that they are used in this diplomat system, and the way that fleets take crew. They're no longer going to have like just a number inside of a crew. They're going to have like each crew member will fill a specific slot in that ship. And say you put a gunner into your crew in the gun slot, and then you participate in combat. Well, now that guy gets combat XP, sort of thing, that kind of stuff. So we're working through all of those things. We've got here a little demo I'm going to show. This is running on the PTR behind a feature flag, which is why you guys don't see it right now. But it is there. And Sutoso cleverly found earlier that this missions tab now exists. And you'll have to forgive. This is just a very sort of quickly thrown together UI, but it storyboards the process of crew missions. Okay. So one thing that we wanted to do is what's like a really low hanging fruit type thing that we can demonstrate the new mutable capabilities of crew coming in. So we've mocked out, this is all mock data. We don't have this crew system built yet, but we have the PR in review, and we're going through how to build the system. So phase 3 should include these changes, right? So for phase 2, you'll see combat and Nemesis Engine and diplomacy and all those things. Phase 3, you'd see your crew now participating in every area that they're just a number. Now they'll actually have stats. So I'll just demonstrate this real quick, this storyboard. Say I come to this CSS and I look in the missions tab, and I'm given a list of missions that I'm qualified for, and there's this pirate patrol one. It just gives you a brief on what the mission is and what level you need to be, how long the mission takes, what it costs to stake in Atlas, and your success rate. what happens when you succeed? Well, you earn 120 Atlas. You get a loot crate, perhaps. Your crew gains XP. And well, what happens if you lose? Well, you have crew fatigue. You lose that 50 Atlas stake. And then what can you do to modify this? Well, I can assign specific crew to this task specifically. So I'm just going to hit R, grab a random selection, and confirm. And you can see my chances went from 60 something to 76%. And I'm going to accept that mission. And it's going to go into the active tab and start counting. And I'm going to come back here to the mission board. And I'm going to just keep assigning crew to some missions. And yeah, the 96%, I like the sound of that. And I'm going to do another one for this relief escort. And I'm going to assign these guys here. And this is mock data, so there are some bugs. And I'm going to accept that mission. Okay, so let's just simulate that I've finished the mission by clicking resolve. And I get the success status, and it tells you, good job. You know, what we're demonstrating here is that you successfully completed the mission, you get the rewards, and that the territory itself is improved overall because you won. And so that ties into the health of the sector as a whole, right? We're already discussing how these missions could impact sector health. Like, people continually failing these missions not only hurt themselves, but they hurt the sector as a whole. Maybe the starbase takes damage or whatever if you don't kill the pirates in a certain amount of time. Anyway.
Yeah,
this
John,
was... Yeah, go ahead. Go for it.
Yeah, I just want to jump here real quickly. A couple features that this whole system that John was showing you will bring to Star Atlas. First of all, as John was saying, crew members now become individuals on chain. So every crew member, he'll have aptitudes, he'll have different stats, he'll have different gear. And all of these are taken into account to calculate your chances of succeeding wherever your crew members are working. So for example, in this case, in a mission to fight pirates. So if your crew member has bad stats on combat, he will influence negatively the outcome of the mission. If the mission is about talking with refugees, for example, a crew member who has high stats on charisma and things linked with that will help the mission to be successful. And as John was explaining, every mission, or most of the missions in the sector, they influence the general state of that sector in Star Atlas. So for example, if the players, let's say you have this planet in that sector, which is hidden, it's full of bugs, like Genos, creatures that are attacking, claim stakes, and etc. And you guys start failing repeatedly on driving them back. What's going to happen is that that's going to trigger an event that's going to unstake everyone's claim stake, and the planets become overtaken by creatures and monsters and etc. And this will require a much harder quest to re-enable claim stakes deployment in that sector. This is an example, but that's the kind of thing that we want to do here. Also, in the future, this will tie up with factions reputation. So you can choose to do missions for specific factions in game. This will award you reputation with some of them. This will diminish your reputation with others. Asset ownership will also unlock certain missions specific to the players. So for example, if you I'll just give you a random example here. If you manage to deploy a claim stake tier 5 in one planet, it might trigger a monster coming from the depths to attack your claim stake and your fleet. So this is the kind of cool stuff that we want to create. And right now, we finally have the tools to do this. Actually, those are already in production. John and I are working hard on that, on creating RNG encounters with NPCs, which will have unique items to sell you, uh, all sorts of things that we are building here that will make the next wave of releases of C4 PTR, bringing this whole new frontier to the game. John even wants to do crew breeding, right, John?
Yes,
John even wants to
exactly.
add crew breeding and
100%.
things like that.
Procreation. I think I have to say this every time.
Procreation, yes. And
Or
another
kunab breeding. Mud procreation.
Filthy
and, then,
FUNAPs.
and another super cool stuff is that once we manage to do this, we can bring the marketplace of crew members inside the game. So no more we'll need to go to Tensor to trade crew members. No, we can recruit them inside Star Atlas. We can even gate this through a university module where you need to build an university in your star base so you are allowed to trade or negotiate crew members in that specific region. We open many doors and we are super excited, and I'm already not following John's advice of hyping this up, but this gets me super excited. You guys have no idea. We have been working really hard on this, and we are finally getting to see this happen, and we are super excited.
Funcracker, you are posting in Dow chat, by the way. I see your comments there. Yeah, but I think this is an insanely cool feature, and also had zero expectation when we started C4 PTR that we were going to be able to get individualized crew benefits in the game. So this is like an incredible development that came out of, I don't want to say out of nowhere. It came out of you, Jose, and John, but you know, again, flabbergasted. Did not expect to get something like this in at all.
Yeah, and addressing your comment here, Frank Cracker, crew members will also influence the fleet's performance. And there will be some stuff that only fleets will be able to perform. Fleet quests, fleet missions are on our radar as well, but crew members, they are the atomic unity of Star Atlas. Like when you go to Unreal Engine 5, you are controlling one crew member. So we need to develop this gameplay loop. It's part of the Star Atlas vision from the first day, and it is a must. It's a building block that we need to bring to the game that will add meaning to all others gameplay loops. So I think this is super important. Like we couldn't not develop unique crew members with unique traits, with gear, and etc. That's my point of view, at least.
For what it's worth, I don't know that we ever publicly communicated this, but one of the um, early concepts when we released crew was to come up with this crew expedition concept as a way to add short-term utility. We were never able to get around to building that out at the time, and this kind of passive expedition model I think is really compelling. I think it's pretty cool. I love the variability and the probability of success based on the crew that you select. In theory, that would actually drive more utility to the rarer crew that are out there because you have a higher probability of success with the legendary crew, for example. And this is also would be the first really like risk to earn mechanic that we've added. You're paying a fee, you might actually fail and you just lose that money. Um, so I know a portion of our community, and this was years ago, but got really into the heist, which this singular feature right here is essentially what the entirety of the heist was. I think it could be really attractive to people. Um, yeah, I'm excited for this one. And when I when I mentioned yesterday things that we've never talked about before in the PTR chat, this is what I was referring to because this wasn't something that we even conceptualized in the game design of C4. So good work, guys.
I appreciate it, Michael. And yeah, I mean, very soon we all be able to craft gear for our crew members, min-max builds on character traits, how to best assemble our fleets, how to best assemble crew members to work in claim stakes, to work on cultivation claims. Crew members will reshape everything that we have built here in Star Atlas and bring the vision forward. I guess this is a no-brainer for me. It's super exciting. Super exciting. John, any last comments besides being mad with me for
No,
hyping
no,
this
no,
up?
no. No, I'm trying to write back to Jindo because he was asking how long we've been working on Crew. So it's probably easier to just say like Crew has been on the tip of everybody's mind ever since they were created, a year or 2 years ago. And it was really Jose that surfaced the fact that we can now that we have our we have C4, and there are a number of mechanics that Crew has been built to of ship stats and fleet stats and mining and all that, and it just made sense to bring that back into the development pipeline. And so Crew's been on our minds for a long time, but we've all been focused on building C4 or building Holosim or building whatever, and it took somebody to just bring that idea back to the forefront and just spearhead it, and that's what Jose did. So so the mechanics and the statistics and all that, we have a lot of old material to go off of. We have a lot of game design. You guys go through the history, you'll see a lot of different Crew things that were published around the time they were released, and we have all that material to work with. And the game design of C4 already has places for Crew to fit in, and so we just need to build the bridge that brings them in and mints the NFTs, and we can start slotting them in where they've always been designed. So I don't know if the missions thing will be the first thing that you see, but it certainly seemed like a low lift, high reward place to start. And talking with Jacob yesterday, his thing was like, Crew is such an important piece to every part of what we've built. We should really come up with a plan to replace Crew as these like just a digit with a real Crew card and make that phase 3. And so that's what we've started to do, is talk about phase 3, replacing fleet Crew and starbase crafting Crew, missions and diplomacy Crew. Get rid of this. They're just a number, and now they're an actual Crew card. They're tied in with the council rank system. They're gaining XP for jobs they're doing, and they're gaining bonus XP for their primary roles and all that stuff. So yeah. And then I see Funcracker here asking about fleets. Like, again, the whole missions board idea currently is just scoped for Crew. It's not scoped for fleets. You can take your fleets and you can go and do real missions with them, real combat, real territory control, attacking star bases and stuff. So I don't know if we'll expand it into that or not, but certainly this type of like passive activity lends itself great to mobile apps, like passive mobile apps where you can check in and do something on a small UI. You'll notice that the Crew missions UI is set up in compartments so that it can be easily read on mobile. So we do want to have those types of options as well, and this helps with that. So I'm not sure if we'll extend it to fleets or if we'll just leave it with Crew members, but oh man, you guys, there's a lot of typing here. I'm behind. Unlock missions for Crew through scanning in NPCs. Yeah. I've just been talking a lot. Actually, I was on vacation last week, so maybe that's why I sound different. I've been decompressing.
It's actually his agent.
Yeah.
And he's just programmed to join these.
Yeah, that's funny.
I do like Funcracker's suggestion there. That's a pretty cool idea that scanning is what discovers missions for you.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Yeah.
we could theory craft around this all day long. I mean, it'd be kind of cool if you could even just sell your missions. Like there's a marketplace for missions to other players.
Mhm.
So you scan, you discover them. You can either complete them yourselves or you trade it off to someone else who wants to do it.
Absolutely. SDUs, specific SDUs that trigger missions. Yes, it's on our radar for sure. All right, guys. Any last questions before we close this brew? I know this was a alpha packet brew. We'll need to digest this next week, but UE5, Michael, you want to say anything about UE5? I mean, we can. It will
Yeah,
take us
yeah.
20 minutes,
It
but
just
yeah.
I'm just like really hyped on this like crew conversation too. I mean, the data packet. The other thing that's cool is like we could have options where you have a revealed mission, so you know what it is when you purchase it, or you purchase the like unopened data packet, and then you get to open it up and figure out what the mission is, and all of those missions could have different rarities associated with them as well. So anyway, I think the possibilities are endless here. I know that where is it? Where's this? Neo was talking a lot about the extensions of governance that we could do, introducing faction level governance. Like that's definitely a possibility. Again, just to emphasize, really focused on trying to get this revenue distribution mechanic introduced, adding utility to crew and polis. That's really the MVP. But certainly there's so much more that we can do with the C4 client. As we move on here, and as you guys have all seen, like the pace of development right now is I'm not kidding you. I would say it's 100x. Like thinking about some of these features, when we originally, I proposed this like democracy module last year in February or March, and the projections at the time, discussing with the engineering team, was that it would probably take our full engineering team 3 to 4 months to complete. And now we've effectively gotten it's not completely done yet, but in over the period of like 1 to 2 days, Jacob individually, single-handedly got the basis of it built, right? So instead of 25 people working on one feature for 4 months, we have one person now that's able to do something in 2 days. It's just absolutely incredible. And the models just keep getting better here, which is only going to continue to accelerate the pace that we can introduce new features. It's just unbelievable. I've like never been more optimistic about our future potential. On the
Absolutely.
UE side, yeah, we did identify an issue with the multiplayer servers, and we are getting those redeployed. It's just taking a little bit longer than I would have expected, but I would expect that to be done in the next day or two. So with Unreal Engine, first of all, just to be open with you guys, we submitted the new build after the town hall, and then we got a series of rejections from Epic Game Store and requests from them to update various aspects of our product page. So we had to go through and make those changes. Specifically, they stated that we are violating their gambling policy, but it's because of some of the language in our marketing on our social profiles and on the .com site that they requested these changes. So we had to navigate through that. We got those. We got all of that resolved, and then we got the client launched, and then subsequently we identified that there was an issue with the multiplayer servers, and so Jacob's been working on getting those rebuilt and redeployed. And again, that should be this week. I'm going to say within a day or two we should have those up and running again. We don't have Brad with us. Did we talk about this? I know we're over, guys, but a lot of things to cover. I think we
Yeah.
talked a little bit about like the claim stake and custom hab in
Mhm.
Unreal Engine as well.
I think we mentioned it, yes.
Yeah, so seeing seeing more progress on that. Sorry about that. Need a sip of water. But for anyone out there that's played Satisfactory, that would be like the closest comparable to what Brad's building out right now. And what we kind of spec'd out yesterday was that it's intended to be kind of the conclusion of the single player Gallia mission system. So you go through the intro mission, you go through all of the missions capturing the star bases, and then as a reward, you like get one of these claim stakes, and then you can go navigate to any planet that exists in Gallia today. You can place your claim stake, and then you can start building out your hab. And then that would include things like, resource requirements where you can go out and hunt minky steers, and collect some hides, or hunt something else, or gather some other resources, which then go into further construction of your personal hab and claim stake in Unreal Engine. So that's pretty cool also.
As you guys can see, we have been busy. And soon that business will make their way into your PCs. So get ready. Things are going to get heated here. And with that said, I think this is a good moment to close this episode of the Atlas Brew. Michael, John, thank you guys for being here with me. Super exciting to discuss the C4 PTR and our product development with you guys.
Yeah, welcome to the new mini weekly town hall.
Exactly. This was this was a mini town hall for sure. Thank you everyone in the audience. We love you guys. Get ready. Starata is going to get super intense in the upcoming months. So prepare, help us make the C4 PTR as good as possible by giving your feedback, reporting bugs, and overall sharing with us your journey through the stars. And
Thank
with
you,
that
guys.
said,
Thanks, Jose.
bye everyone. See ya.
See you,
Have a nice
everybody.
week.
See you next week.